morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Wednesday, January 3rd, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today. We love to see her. We saw her yesterday. She's back again. We've gotten her over the last couple of days. We've got here our Queen of Cups. This is the exact same card we started on about 2 days ago. So again, what are we seeing that is happening right now for feminine energy in the divine union frequency? Feminine energy is doing a lot of work right now, assessing their emotionality, doing a lot of that unpacking. And while we see that a lot of that intentional karmic unpacking that masculine and feminine energy set their sights on doing prior to the beginning of this Mercury retrograde cycle, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine, this had a lot of response in trying to be able to put some determinate action towards things, towards outside energy. Immediately pushing something forward with determinative active action to see if you could have that point of reactivity or that change in result of circumstances and situations outside the self. The work that the feminine was doing in this capacity has been more internal. Why do we see that it's more internal? Because this is moving in a space or place of feminine energy coming into a better understanding and a better sense of objectivity as it relates to circumstances and situations from the past. While masculine is looking towards these situations right now in order to heal the outside karmic energy, feminine energy is almost doing this work to be able to heal the self, to be able to heal the personal journey, to be able to look back on what circumstances and situations elicited within the feminine, to be able to look at things objectively. And we see here that a lot of the masculine energy that is assisting feminine in this work right now, in the divine union frequency, is amplifying this to feminine by almost articulating to the feminine that they themselves are someone that shows and displays a high degree of emotional balance. That ability to recognize it is almost masculine energy amplifying to feminine, saying, if there was something about the past experience that feminine is trying to confront about themselves that rendered the feminine not in that state or space of emotional balance, that is almost masculine trying to articulate to the feminine, saying, you need to look outside the self. You need to look at what was at play around you that may have elicited that reaction, specifically because masculine is almost showing a point of validation to feminine in this frequency and saying, nothing you have ever shown me shows me that you do not have or lack that ability. And that, in a way, is helping the feminine on that internal journey of the self and emotional balance at this time, via the confrontation of the self from the past. And that is how feminine is healing a lot of that unhealed karmic energy right now. Masculine energy and feminine that are coming into divine union right now, one of the things that we are effectively seeing at this time is, again, masculine energy that is continuing forward into the divine union frequency right now is prioritizing the feminine's own needs above any of the energy that may be trying to come towards the masculine right now to heal or mediate or remediate anything that feels unhealed at this time. Because while we see that the energy at the heart of the divine union right now is doing this work intentionally, this is coming through more as circumstantial situations and scenarios that are creating unobtrusive or very discerning problems for energy that's trying to move into the divine union frequency. And masculine's ability right now to prioritize the feminine energy's own sense of what they feel comfortable with is effectively that anchor point. It is showing a masculine that is prioritizing a particular feminine energy, even around other energy of masculine right now that may be coming towards masculine just for the sake and desire of wanting to heal something. And it is this ability we are seeing right now, that amplification, and almost again utilizing the power of time to potentially even postpone anything that's coming towards masculine and feminine right now in divine union that may feel like it's an inopportune time, that is really ascertaining whether energy's intentionality in terms of trying to bring this healing forth towards the energy and divine union is actually legitimately for the sake of healing a connection versus anything that feels like it's only coming towards someone because they see them moving into the divine union frequency. Masculine and feminine that have fallen into separation over circumstances and situations like this is feminine energy continuing to hold forth, to continuing to call back their own energy, if you will, specifically because this is a feminine energy that is recognizing the power of remaining in separation, but holding a point of emotional balance, even in the process of being in separation. And in this way, we see that the feminine energy in separation right now is doing a lot of the similar unpacking emotionally that we are recognizing of the feminine energy that is moving in the divine union frequency in terms of feeling that point of immediate catharsis, even if in divine union, almost balancing the fact that this is a situation or circumstance where feminine energy is exploring their own emotional territory to make sure and to feel reliable as it relates to the choices that they've made up until this time coming from a balanced state or space. We even see that this is why that there was a lot of feminine energy over the last few days that has been articulating very nuanced situations to energy around them right now to make sure that the feminine energy isn't over exaggerating on something, isn't misseeing something. And we're seeing here that this is a feminine energy that's almost immediately getting that point of catharsis and balance as it relates to the fact that the feminine energy does not feel like they are over compensating here. This is a feminine that feels very much at peace with a lot of the choices that they've made in separation, specifically because feminine energy is prioritizing what feels good for them emotionally above everything else, and recognizing that good masculine energy coming towards feminine at this time is going to prioritize the feminine energy's own emotional needs outside of anything that is potentially causing that type of rift. Masculine energy and separation right now, this could be a moment that we see that you are potentially trying to move towards a feminine energy that you are recognizing is in this state or space of emotional balance. And we are even seeing right now that for a lot of the masculine energy at this time, something about the feminine energy's own ability to be so focused on their own comfort level right now is almost building a sense or a degree where you are recognizing how careful you have to kind of move towards this feminine energy right now, because we're seeing here that this is a feminine energy that is prioritizing their emotional needs above anything else. First or foremost right now, this is the priority of the feminine in separation. So we see here that for a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, this is either going to be evident in you having or building new connection points with feminine that feel very much like they're coming from the facet of emotionality first. Taking that time, again, holding space as opposed to making space, prioritizing the feminine energy's own emotional needs. Or this is masculine energy that is potentially moving towards feminine energy at that point of emotional balance to help build insight on how to move closer towards your own heart's desire. Because we see here that for a lot of the masculine energy and separation over the last few days, that question that's kind of coming forth in a lot of spaces of places in terms of asking yourself, or the energy asking you around you, what is it that you're seeking, is something that you are recognizing is an internal journey. And that choice may be amplified as it relates to what feminine manifestation you're trying to move towards at this time, as it relates to the prioritization of path. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now, second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we love to see these cards in combination. We've got here our 9 of Wands in its reversal. This is feminine energy that is coming into some deep healing on the emotional level right now. And how is feminine doing this? What did we see was happening for the energy in the divine union frequency right now? Masculine intentionally trying to move forward, extending that hand, trying to build bridges right now extending the healing journey that they've been on in divine union towards situations and circumstances that they now feel like they have the emotional support to face around energy where they may not necessarily know what they will be getting back in kind. Feminine energy is doing this on the internal level. Feminine energy is allowing themselves to review and to assess situations and circumstances internally that may have previously been very triggering. Things that feminine may have almost closed themselves off emotionally from thinking about or experiencing. Feminine is now feeling like they're ready to do some of that deeper emotional work. And this is almost feeling like a bit of a sensitivity test, almost like allowing themselves to feel an expression of something to see if it's going to trigger them back into some of that same feeling that they may have felt that sense of sensitivity and anxiety about in the past, or if feminine now feels that ability to move forward into these areas, specifically now due to the fact that they're recognizing that the landscape, the energetic landscape, has changed around them enough so much that they can almost allow this to be a deeper exploration of their own emotional self. Masculine and feminine energy right now that are coming into the divine union frequency, we see that this is going to feel like a little bit of an easement right now. It's almost coming through as like a point of relief as it relates to some circumstances and situations, because again, if this is energy wherein there were opportunities, there were points of discernment that were coming through, something that felt like it was harmless, if this was masculine energy that prioritized the needs and the desires of the feminine above something that may have felt like it was coming towards the energy from a good direction, but that the timing was off, that ability of energy to basically be patient, to be able to put something off, is almost amplifying not only the fact that that energy was coming towards them from a good-natured space or place, but also it feels almost like a freeing up. It feels almost like this energy is starting to feel more at ease and at comfort as it relates to energetically what is happening around them right now, because this is almost that moment of the divine union settling in as a reality to a lot of the outside energy that is seeing and experiencing it. Masculine and feminine in separation right now, this is specifically why we are seeing that in separation right now, this is a feminine energy that isn't necessarily going backwards, but they're certainly not coming into a state or space of trying to navigate the masculine in one direction or another. Why are we seeing this? Because this is a feminine energy in separation right now that is getting a point of emotional balance by giving masculine all the space that they require. Feminine almost taking this wait and see approach, building a sense of optics in terms of their own feelings in relation to how masculine energy is moving right now at a point of separation, because this is feminine energy that does not feel and recognizes that in order to be in divine union with someone, it can't require someone to emotionally navigate someone's every desire, every action. There almost needs to be that ability to trust, to have that point of faith coming in recognizing a masculine energy that knows which direction, knows where their GPS points, knows where their cardinal direction is, not just when they're in connection with the feminine or when they're getting that point of insight from the feminine, but just simply due to the way that they move, due to the way that they react, due to the way that they exist. And this is why, again, we see that this is a feminine that almost feels like it's very sedentary. It feels like it's not making a lot of movements towards masculine. But again, observing the masculine energy that even beyond that makes the intentional choice to come towards feminine, not because feminine is the only option, but because the masculine has all sorts of other options, and feminine's almost given them that expanse to see if the masculine chooses the feminine. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is that moment that you may be feeling a little bit uncertain, a little bit confused. It may even feel masculine energy that, like we said, there's some kind of diffusion here of feminine that's potentially around you if in separation, that feeling like there's a lot of feminine energy that is having this level or degree of like kindness, positivity, connection with you, but it almost feels like there is this like limitation point that the energy is almost watching and waiting, because you may be recognizing that this is how this feminine energy is moving. It's almost this observation in terms of feeling to a certain extent that the feminine energy feels like you might not necessarily be invested in a deeper connection, almost desiring to keep a lot of tangible or surface level connections. So for a lot of the masculine energy and separation, if you're on this healing journey, this desire or this ability to try to let the feminine recognize that you are open and available for that deeper work to go into divine union may feel like a bit of that challenging space right now. And it is almost requiring this moment of having to hold a lot of space with the feminine. And it may feel like a lot of slow work because, again, this is feminine energy that keeps going like, are you still here? Like, what are you doing? Don't you have somewhere to be? Don't you have somewhere else to go? And you kind of having to be like, no, I don't. This is where I want to be. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here 5 of Cups in its reversal. This is why we see for a lot of the feminine energy right now in separation, this feeling that may be feeling kind of like this moment of feminine coming into a point of emotional balance, but it does feel almost bittersweet to a certain extent, because this is a feminine energy that is almost in that space or place where they are anticipating or expecting that the masculine energy is going to lose interest, is going to lose that consistency, is going to like drift away, as it were, because the masculine energy has too much of an anxiety about missing out on opportunities. So we see here that even now the feminine energy is almost holding their own emotionality very close to their chest right now, keeping a lot of that like objective grip on something, being open to masculine, but not necessarily completely embracing or moving in a passionate way towards masculine right now, because there's something about the feminine energy still going through that point or that level or degree of cynicism that is requiring on their own journey to feel a sense of almost anticipating that this is how the masculine energy is going to move if in separation. For masculine energy right now that's in separation, this is that moment that you are potentially even recognizing and identifying that there's something here that's almost like having to articulate to a feminine energy to a certain extent, you know, almost a feminine saying, aren't you missing? Aren't you missing doing something? Having to say to the feminine energy, like, no, it's not bothering me. I don't feel anything about this. I'm not doing this. I'm not making these choices. I'm not moving in this way because of you. I'm doing this because you are my aspiration, because you are my goal. In a way, this is the amplification right now of feminine, again, of masculine in separation, either experiencing and seeing this right now, having had this already occur, wherein the feminine has almost closed off to a certain extent and maybe feeling very open about the fact in terms of expressing and feeling something about not necessarily feeling like they're the priority in your life, and almost saying to you in a way or shape or form like they're okay with that. They're just kind of calling it like they see it. Versus masculine energy that may be trying to evidence and clarify to feminine right now in separation, you know, their own sense of regret for potentially making the feminine feel that way. So there may be a lot of work right now that's potentially happening with a lot of masculine energy in separation, trying to build walls, trying to heal, trying to build bridges here, trying to build and remediate something, trying to heal something in terms of recognizing and seeing the feminine's perspective on something in a way that you may not necessarily have seen it before. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. It is that moment of observation right now that we are potentially seeing that is happening, that is almost amplifying the formation into the divine union frequency right now, specifically due to the fact that we are recognizing that for a lot of the masculine energy that's coming into divine union, it is that feeling of just recognizing that in order to maintain and continue forward in the divine union frequency, you're going to have to potentially disappoint some of the energy around you. You can't necessarily please everyone, but we are seeing here to a certain extent that feeling, that point of acceptance is almost, again, it is feeling like that is the cost. That is the give and take that occurs when you come into balance with feminine energy, when you are moving from one direction, when you are moving from one perspective. There's almost a moment here that we are seeing that is amplifying for masculine that feels, again, especially if these are circumstances and situations that you have to put some energy off on, we are seeing here that there's something about the timing of masculine experiencing something from outside feminine energy right now, if moving into divine union, that is almost expressing itself as a point of bittersweetness. Because it's almost that point for masculine that is amplifying the ability of saying and recognizing and saying, like, this healing, had it come at a different time, may have led to a different outcome. But this is masculine energy that's almost saying, I am on that direction into coming into divine union, and I'm not going to be misaligned or misdirected from it, as it were. Feminine energy seeing a masculine energy in this modality, what we are really identifying here is almost a masculine energy that the feminine, in a way, is seeing and feeling this expression on. And what we see about this that's so important is the fact that this isn't necessarily happening in a box. This isn't a motion that the masculine is trying to hide their own feeling of what is experienced here. This is rather masculine and feminine almost sharing in this point, having that point of optics, because we even see here that for a lot of the feminine energy coming into divine union, this doesn't require masculine to pretend or to act like their heart has not been connected to other unhealed karmic connections in the past. Rather, the amplification, the ability to speak on something, the ability to put words on the sensitive nature of circumstances and situations right now, hoping for different outcomes, even feeling right now that sensitivity as it relates to something approaching the masculine at a time that divine union is forming, is almost helping to further the connection between masculine and feminine that are working in this mutual environment as it relates to being able to move forward together. Because this isn't a moment of shutting something down, as it were. It's almost building further connective tissue between masculine and feminine as it relates to how they feel around circumstances and situations that are coming towards them energetically at a time that feels like it is the worst possible time. Masculine and feminine energy in the divine union frequency right now, this is that moment and anxiety point that we see that a lot of the feminine energy is experiencing in the divine union energy right now, because this is feminine energy trying to move forward right now from a state of feeling their full vibration of being their most vulnerable, authentic expression of self, but also feeling that anxiety and fear related to situations and circumstances from the past wherein the feminine did not necessarily feel that that safe space was created for them. So feminine is trying to almost navigate right now against like two different variables of the self, if in the divine union frequency, that feeling right now of trying to maintain a point of emotional balance as they kind of continue forward in that sense of kind of finding themselves, while also feeling a lot of anxiety in terms of having to look at past experiences wherein the feminine could not embody that version of self. So this is almost feminine facing their own trigger right now, all for the sake of being able to navigate and see whether they can maintain a point of emotional balance throughout it. Masculine energy seeing feminine in this modality right now in divine union, this could be feeling like you have to give the feminine energy a lot of confidence and support at this time, that you yourself are like fully embracing feminine moving forward in this level or degree of openness. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our 10 of Pentacles in its upright. What we are seeing right now is the discernment between what feels like it is karmically positively aligned right now, particularly for the energy in the divine union frequency, versus that state or space of having to surrender and let go of things that don't feel like they are in alignment to the space that you find yourself in at this moment. For both masculine and feminine energy, this work has all been for the same effect, and that is extending, as it were, the healing journey, not just to be one of the self, but almost one that is extended out to energy that is around the divine union. And we see here that for masculine, this has been a moment that has been more about tangible ability to do so, tangibly putting that active expression forth, tangibly trying to get that outcome and seeing if the energy around you at this time is ready to heal. For feminine, this is the moment that we are seeing wherein that internal journey, that facing of oneself by going back to the past, experiencing spaces or places that you weren't necessarily in so much of a point of balance, is amplifying the fact that for the feminine is building around them right now an environment that feels like it is creating a safe, supportive space or place for feminine to be their most authentic expression of self. And that is requiring a heavy level of discernment for the feminine energy right now, because that is almost a moment of feminine moving with trepidation in terms of finding their own self, remembering situations and circumstances wherein the feminine may have not necessarily felt as safe, seen, or supported. Now, masculine and feminine, and masculine, we are seeing here that the metric of success that we are identifying for a lot of the masculine energy right now, as it relates to building that sense of confidence for the feminine energy that you're in divine union in right now, is almost amplifying and expressing to the feminine, again, that sense of positivity, of cultivating and creating an environment around feminine through which they feel like they can be their most authentic expression of self. Because this is almost masculine saying, to a certain extent, this isn't even something that they're doing solely for the purpose of the feminine, that this is something that benefits the divine union completely. It doesn't stop. It's not even a self-indulgent act for the part of the feminine, because, and again, it almost feels like feminine being able to move forward in this fashion builds an even better energy around the divine union itself as it relates to those connection points. Masculine and feminine energy coming into the divine union frequency right now, this is that act of discernment. This is that careful parceling right now in recognizing that when you are coming into the formation of the divine union, there's going to be some energy that's going to celebrate it, and there's going to be some energy that is going to look at it as a sense of loss. This is simply that point of observation, and what we're recognizing right now for the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now, that sense or level of optics, that point of perception, that recognition. And this is why we see it doesn't necessarily just feel like a completely lost cause situation here, because this is that moment that feels like some things need to be let go for the abundance that comes with coming into the divine union. It's just that simple sense of understanding that whenever you move into the divine union frequency, there's going to be some energy around all of the energies at play that almost amplifies their own feeling of frustration or regret, to feel like they are not the ones coming into that vibration at the same time. But we see here that for a lot of other energy, it's not the fact that all of the energy around the divine union is coming into that way. This is that moment of finally taking into consideration what is being brought forth towards the divine union right now, to ascertain whether the energy is truly coming from a state or space of support, or if something that is being brought forth to the energy of coming into divine union is coming with the guise of feeling supportive, but is really amplifying energy that feels a sense of loss or regret, seeing energy moving forward in that fashion. Continuing here for the energy that's in separation, this is why we see that for a lot of feminine energy in separation right now, if there were circumstances through which someone feels like the energy that you are trying to move into divine union with prioritized outside energy as opposed to the desire of the feminine. This is why we see right now that feminine energy is working from a state or space of trying to maintain a point of emotional balance, almost trying to maintain that frequency of balance that they may have felt that inclination towards, that the divine union was moving them into right now, trying not to lose it, but it does feel bittersweet because there's almost this moment of feeling a sense of loss or regret around an energy that they feel did not necessarily prioritize the feminine energy's own needs over the needs of the energy outside of the divine union. And for feminine energy, that is why we see that a lot of this feminine energy is leaving themselves open to discuss this with masculine energy, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. But it's not creating or causing a moment of feminine shifting their own perspective on things. It's more about feminine almost staying very even keel and open about their feelings at this time. And some of the things that they may be expressing to feminine, to masculine, is the fact that they see something wherein they regret that they can't come into divine union with an energy because that energy lacks an ability to prioritize the feminine over all of the energy that is currently around them at this time. This is almost feminine energy moving towards masculine and being very open about what they are seeing, not necessarily changing their opinion or view, but almost telling the masculine what they see that is causing them to almost pull back their own energy to a certain degree, or be very discerning on how much energy they give a particular manifestation of masculine if they've recognized a masculine that seems to lack this ability or desire to prioritize the feminine energy's own emotional needs beyond those of the energy outside the divine union. Masculine energy in separation right now, this could be one of those moments that you're getting some point of optics from feminine energy around you that's helping you understand why the feminine energy is open to you, but only to a degree. Why there may even be a moment if you're trying to heal something with some feminine energy right now. And this could even be feminine energy that has pulled you out of the possibility of coming into divine union right now. They may be expressing to you why they're open, but they're only open to a degree because it is the energy around you right now that is amplifying to you the fact that they feel, the feminine energy around you feels in some way they have observed you moving in a way that you are available to everything, to everybody. You don't want to disappoint anybody. And when you don't want to disappoint anybody, you can't satisfy a particular energy. You can't prioritize a particular energy. It's an impossibility moment. You can't inhabit two paths at once. You can't be moving in a state or space where you are available for everything, for everyone at all times, while also trying to say that there's a prioritization point of the feminine. There is a choice. One must be foregone for the other in some way, shape, or form. And if not, this almost creates a state or space of feminine almost allowing you in, but only to this degree. Only, again, rationing out how much of their own emotional bandwidth that they are trying to give you, specifically due to the fact that they feel that that is that limitation point. They're effectively matching you energetically in terms of what they feel like they can expect and anticipate from you going forward. Continuing to get clarification, fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we have here, what did I say? Knight of Cups in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now that are in divine union. This is why we see that the feminine energy is feeling that point of anxiety right now in terms of experiencing and facing themselves, in being their most authentic expression of self at this time. Because this moment of being in the divine union frequency, of being called forth to move forward with a state of feeling like it is safe to be open emotionally right now, is almost immediately bringing feminine energy back to situations and circumstances wherein that was not the case, wherein that was not the experience that feminine had. So this is almost feminine energy that is feeling that moment right now in divine union, that is creating a moment that creates almost feminine energy, feeling and having that point, that echo chamber of the past, of situations and circumstances wherein that was not a way that the feminine energy could move right now. We see that a lot of the masculine energy in the frequency of the divine union right now is almost amplifying to feminine, that this is not something that they need to fear, that this is something that feels like it is being supported heavily. But even now we see that this is feminine energy that feels that point of anxiety. They feel that point of fear. They feel that sense of concern that this may impact masculine energy, that masculine energy, seeing the feminine in this modality, finding the feminine in this way and in this openness, may create a reactivity point, which is why we see that this is feminine energy that almost feels like they're going back and forth on things right now for fear of disrupting their own connection with the masculine. Masculine energy in divine union right now, we are even seeing here now, there is a moment that is coming to play here wherein you are almost experiencing and seeing right now that sense of anxiety with the feminine, going through those moments, having to navigate feminine energy's own internalized fears, and almost amplifying to the feminine to a certain extent that these fears are unfounded, that these fears aren't going to result in what they think that they're going to result in. It is almost that amplification right now in the divine union frequency that is calling forth to the masculine to be able to amplify to the feminine and say, these things that I'm saying, I'm not just saying to make you feel confident and comfortable. These are things that I actually fear. These are things that I actually feel. These are things that I actually want you to understand. And even now we see that even at this moment, it does feel like it is a challenging space or place for masculine, because this is almost a masculine that is trying to navigate their own emotional center, feeling and seeing a feminine experiencing that point of anxiety is almost reminding the masculine of, again, spaces and places wherein the feminine energy has had these experiences. In itself, that moment feels like it's almost triggering to the masculine, but the trigger isn't necessarily even directed to the feminine. It's directed more to circumstances and situations that cause the feminine energy to feel that point of anxiety in the first place. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, one of the things that we are experiencing is that moment that, again, it is that point of optics that masculine needs to fall into right now to continue forward into the divine union frequency, that feels like you have to almost intentionally, you recognize to a certain extent that you're potentially disappointing some energy right now if you're moving into divine union. But again, for masculine energy, this is that moment that is amplifying one's own desire and determination, as it were, to come into divine union at this time. Because what we are really amplifying and seeing right now is almost a moment that we are seeing that masculine energy that is ready to move forward in this way, this desire or this ability, this understanding that you have to kind of let go of some things to continue forward into divine union doesn't feel like so much a loss. It feels almost like a point of celebration, because it's just that moment of recognizing masculine having that point of optics that almost feels like there's energy that may be seeing you moving into divine union right now and is expressing in some way, shape, or form their own disappointment, their own sense of frustration, their own feeling that that is something that they would have potentially liked to move towards with you in the past, maybe even experiencing some of that energy approaching you right now, especially if there's something here that you have to kind of put off healing something due to the fact that you're moving into divine union. This could be that point of optics that you're kind of seeing now that's almost amplifying to you why something might not necessarily have been as harmless as it may have looked like on the first blush, because it's almost that point of someone, again, expressing that desire of care here but also seeing that this is something that you are, again, willing to like hold back on or push past so that you can continue forward into divine union. But we see, and again, for the feminine energy right now that's moving into divine union with the masculine, that ability of masculine to ascertain and see and recognize the fact that there's some energy around them right now that they're almost articulating that they can see is somewhat disappointed to find them in this modality. Seeing a feminine and seeing a masculine that's able to express that to feminine right now is almost amplifying to feminine that this is in fact a masculine energy that's ready to move into divine union, because this is a feminine energy that is effectively recognizing that this is masculine energy that is being very open to the feminine, as it were, about the fact that this is a letting go process. Masculine and feminine that are falling into separation on this is exactly why we're seeing that a lot of this separation is occurring right now. And there may be a lot of communication now that the retrograde's over that's happening around feminine energy's own sense of regret or disappointment, potentially having seen a masculine that they feel that there may have been a desire to move into divine union with, but almost feeling a sense or seeing something about that masculine energy that articulates the feminine, that the masculine might not necessarily recognize what it actually takes to be in divine union, because this is almost feminine energy that feels like in separation, some kind of articulation point to masculine. And this is either to masculine that they've built, that they've had these circumstances with, or potentially articulating this to new masculine energy, why there is this trepidation in terms of amplifying and articulating upon the fact that there was a feeling of seeing masculine energy that wasn't able to prioritize or make feminine a priority as it relates to the energy around them, which almost created a level or degree of building a connection with masculine that was almost required or almost had a limitation point in terms of how deep or how connected the feminine would allow themselves to become to the masculine energy, specifically due to the anxiety point of feeling like that masculine energy would never be able to make the choice of truly prioritizing the feminine. Masculine, you may be having conversations with the feminine right now, specifically about this. This may even be a moment that you just relinquished the potential of coming into divine union with an energy, another feminine energy, specifically to have a conversation like this with another feminine energy about their own sense of regret and seeing a masculine energy that doesn't feel like they have that ability to be able to prioritize and commit to a feminine. But even if this happens right now, you could be realizing if this was something that you left a divine union energy for, to go towards another feminine, for the feminine to articulate to you that they have a feeling, that they see the fact that you feel like you can't truly commit to a certain particular feminine energy, you may be realizing that even in the way you just moved, you just proved that that is the case. You amplified the feminine energy's own assessment, even if you just got pulled out of divine union for them to tell you that. Which may be leading now to a fact that you may be feeling like, again, you're kind of back on square one with a lot of energy, potentially feeling like you have to like almost articulate and amplify that you're now seeing something about the fact that like the feminine energy is only now kind of like, it's like I told you, it's like the pool. It's like the pool has like a line in it now as it relates to how far feminine energy will open up or go towards you, because there is that hesitation, because there is that anxiety that you're not necessarily ready or willing to prioritize a particular feminine over the needs of the energy around you. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Cups in combination with our Nine of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Two of Pentacles. Masculine and feminine in divine union right now. This is why we see for the feminine energy right now, this is feeling like a lot of difficult internal path work for the feminine. And it's going to feel very internal, because this is, as we said, this is feminine energy extending the realm of their own ability to stay emotionally balanced around circumstances and situations, potentially even navigating spaces and places in the past that they emotionally almost close themselves off on, because the situations around those circumstances almost triggered the feminine out of that emotional balance. And what we're seeing here is this is feminine energy that's almost pushing their own internal boundaries right now to see, much like the masculine is trying to extend that healing outwards in the tangible space, feminine's trying to do it internally. Feminine's trying to do it on the internal level by allowing themselves to confront and face things that may have felt more challenging to them in the past, but almost seeing right now if the environment, the supportive environment that they're in right now, is going to allow them that ability or degree of confronting something that may have brought out a side of them that they may have recognized had more to do with them having to be in a reactive state due to the environment not truly being supportive. This is feminine now almost again allowing themselves to look at something to say, was that a situation that I could not handle something, or was that a situation wherein the environment around the feminine was not conducive to allow the feminine to truly show how well they could? Masculine seeing feminine in this modality right now, this is a moment that we are identifying and recognizing that this is feminine and this is a feminine energy, that you are building that ability of trying to take their walls down. This is masculine energy, again, feeling that sense of support of seeing a feminine that continues to be able to maintain that point of emotional balance. This is almost masculine that's continuing to encourage feminine in this capacity in the divine union frequency, because this is almost a masculine energy that is further encouraging the feminine to see, to leave that space, because this is masculine energy that actually feels a confidence that the feminine energy has an ability to emotionally handle things that is well beyond their own ability to emotionally handle things. This is almost a masculine energy that's almost, again, trying to affirm to the feminine and saying, I've seen no evidence that you aren't able to emotionally handle something well. All I need to do is continue to build that supportive environment wherein you feel that you have that ability to do so. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union. This is that moment that we are effectively identifying and recognizing wherein masculine, this is almost that point that you may be even articulating if you're moving into divine union right now, because again, this is not a time when you're moving into divine union, you can't do dual path work. You can't walk before you can run. You can't intentionally go back to something to try to heal an unhealed karmic connection while you're literally trying to form a divine union. It's too sensitive a space or place. And we're almost seeing here that a lot of the masculine energy is almost articulating right now that sense or that level or degree of empathy, but also like obligation towards circumstances and situations right now, almost again amplifying to the energy around the divine union, that the prioritization point is the emotional balance of the feminine energy, that first and foremost, that is where the masculine energy's priority lies. And as a result, this is almost masculine energy that, again, is almost amplifying, especially if there's energy that's coming towards them right now for the sake of trying to heal something, that there's something here that masculine's almost saying that this isn't something that can be addressed now, that this isn't something that they can do both things at once, that ultimately it has to rely on a feminine energy feeling comfortable for a masculine to be able to participate in that type of work. And this almost masculine energy saying and expressing even in those moments right now that even if the feminine isn't present, the needs and the desires of the feminine are being presented. Do you see that? Even with the feminine not present, the needs and the desires of the feminine in the divine union are being presented, which is confirming and validating to the energy around this masculine that this is a masculine that is further moving into divine union. And that's why we see right now that masculine energy may be getting some optics right now, potentially around feminine energy that, again, may have tried to come towards them with the best of intentions, but even now may be this point of masculine recognizing and seeing something about the feminine coming towards them in this way that was trying to ascertain whether the masculine energy was truly committing forward into a path of divine union. Feminine energy and masculine in separation right now, masculine energy, if this is a moment that's brought you into separation, if this is a moment that's brought you into separation where the needs of a feminine outside of your divine union tried to like call you back forth to build or to heal, to mend some kind of karmic energy right now, there could even be a moment that you are ascertaining and recognizing that this is a point of feminine almost amplifying that there's something about you that they see wherein you don't necessarily prioritize the needs of a particular feminine energy. That inability to balance the needs of the feminine energy is coming through one question and one question potentially only, which is again, whether you are speaking from a point of autonomy, your personal self, or if you are speaking on behalf of both yourself and the energy that you are in divine union with, which amplifies to the feminine energy, whether you are truly moving into divine union right now, or if you are continuing to balance multiple options, whether you are in that state. And we're seeing here that is why for a lot of the masculine energy right now in separation, there could be a moment where again, feminine energy is talking to you, they're expressing to you, they're being open to you, but what they're being open to you on is the fact that they don't see you necessarily prioritizing a particular energy, but almost that you have made the intentional choice in terms of wanting to navigate and stay in a space or place wherein you don't necessarily prioritize a particular energy, which means that energy almost assumes that the ability to come into divine union with you is almost an impossibility factor. And masculine, you may be recognizing this and seeing something about this, and that's why we're seeing that there's that point of observation where you may be recognizing that if you don't move in a state or space where you prioritize a single energy, it's like all of the energy reaches a limitation factor in terms of how much they're willing to give you, because they can see it too. Feminine energy in separation right now, this could be a moment that feminine's giving masculine all the space that they want. This is a feminine energy that's almost, again, they're not chasing after masculine if in separation. This is feminine energy saying, do what you want. But if this is a masculine that already effectively, like, the reason feminine saying do what you want is because masculine almost articulated to feminine that they were going to do what they wanted anyway, that they weren't looking for feminine's approval or confirmation. They were just kind of saying what it is. This is feminine almost stating to masculine, if this is masculine trying to come back to the feminine, the fact that something has shifted in these relationships, something has shifted in these partnerships, because there was a predicate to that sentence. That the predicate was, go ahead, do whatever you want, and I will do whatever I want. And that is why we see here that this is feminine energy that may still be allowing this masculine energy towards them to a certain extent, but only to an extent. And for masculine, this is why you may feel like something has shifted with you and this feminine energy, because this is feminine energy. It's like they're only letting you in the foyer. They're only letting you in the front part of the house. They're only letting you in to a certain degree because they feel that ultimately you've shown them that you are refusing to prioritize their emotional needs beyond the needs of energy around you. Continuing to get clarification between our 9 of Wands and its reversal in combination with our 5 of Cups. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our High Priestess in its reversal. This is why we see right now that feminine energy is going through a lot right now, even in divine union frequency, because this is feminine energy that is doubting themselves. They're doubting their judgment. They're feeling that level or degree of doubting their instincts to a certain extent, because feminine energy is looking back on situations or circumstances that feminine feels like someone potentially tried to give them, I have to stress this, and I need to say this, like this is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy, potentially in the divine union frequency, that anxiety of someone potentially in the past having given feminine a lot of space, but it wasn't necessarily for the intentionality of allowing the feminine to be their most authentic expression of self, but rather almost to put feminine in a space of, of creating trauma, of creating hurt, of creating almost like a psychic injury, if you will. And this is why we see that a lot of that feminine energy right now is almost moving so cautiously, even in the divine union frequency, because this is feminine energy recalling spaces and places wherein, again, and what do we say that the masculine is seeing right now with a lot of the feminine energy in the divine union frequency? Feminine energy was taken advantage of. Feminine energy was not treated properly. Feminine energy was wounded for trying to just be in a state or space of being their most authentic expression of self. So what we are identifying here for a lot of the feminine energy, even navigating that level or degree of care and support that is being cultivated in the divine union frequency, it feels very triggering because feminine is almost afraid of the carpet being pulled out from underneath them. It's reminding them of that past trauma. Masculine, you could be seeing this on the part of the feminine energy around you right now. You could be seeing these moments of, again, trying to encourage a feminine, trying to tell a feminine energy that they're in this supportive space or place, but feeling the anxiety of the feminine coming into a state or space of truly believing that, specifically due to the fact of the feminine almost articulating places and spaces in the past wherein that was not necessarily the case. And what we're almost seeing here, again, for masculine, seeing and encountering a feminine in this modality, it's almost requiring you to be in a space or place of reassuring the feminine energy to a certain extent, amplifying to the feminine energy and saying that what that occurred to you is not something that is occurring here. This is not that space or place. This is an environment that I am creating for you to be your most authentic expression of self. And having that moment almost is that point of masculine, again, feeling the feminine wound. The divine union almost creating a space or place of masculine, almost embodying that same level and degree of hurt of the feminine, and seeing the feminine energy's deeper wounds here due to the fact of feminine almost articulating their anxieties and fears towards a masculine, even as the masculine is trying to give them that sense of encouragement. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is why we see that this is feeling so difficult, because this is almost a masculine energy. I have to stress this. Potentially seeing right now feminine energy, if you're moving into divine union from the past, coming towards masculine as they see them coming into divine union. And it's almost that moment of, even if you're articulating right now that you're moving into divine union, suddenly realizing that even if something was coming towards you from a state or space that feels like it was in a point of good nature, it feels like it was a point of like positive intention, there's almost this point, if this is feminine energy, seeing your own intention towards moving into divine union, potentially even articulating to you, if there's a point that you're putting off or postponing some healing as you're coming into divine union, that may feel like you're experiencing some trigger point from some of that outside feminine energy, because it's almost that observation in terms of feeling a sense of recognizing or feeling a point about identifying the fact that this is a change that they're seeing in you, something that you're moving towards that they feel like they might not necessarily have seen in you prior to this point. And even now, that might be that amplification of feminine trying to articulate their own sense of disappointment that you were not able to create that space or place with them. And this is why we see that for a lot of the masculine energy, if you're wondering why there might be a lot of feminine energy that's trying to move towards you right now as you're moving into divine union, this is why. Because you're moving into the divine union frequency. Your ability to start to show an ability to do so is creating a state or space of feminine energy that is like almost coming towards you in this way because their own healing is being triggered, seeing you moving in a fashion of healing. But the thing that we're seeing here that is almost problematic is almost that moment that we're identifying for a lot of the masculine energy in this modality, that it feels like you have to disappoint some energy at this time, because it almost feels like, again, that point of observation and saying to a certain extent that you were potentially not ready at that point in the past because you weren't on the same space on your healing journey. Like, that's the point. It's like, yes, that's true. You have become a different person. You have effectively changed. But even now, your choice to continue forward into the divine union is amplifying just how much you yourself have truly healed. Masculine energy that has fallen back into feminine energy, seeing this to a certain extent, seeing a masculine that feels to a certain extent, again, almost articulating, masculine almost saying to the feminine that they're moving into divine union with, like, yeah, I had to disappoint someone. I had to tell them, like, I'm sorry, I can't do this right now because I'm doing this with you, and it wouldn't feel right. It wouldn't feel comfortable. It's not the time. In a way, this is almost amplifying to feminine energy that this is truly masculine, that is showing that determination path in terms of moving towards divine union. Because not only is this a masculine energy that's willing to disappoint the energy around them right now, this is masculine energy that's being very open about that. It's being very forthright, as it were. Masculine and feminine. Masculine that's fallen into separation over this. This is potentially a moment that you may be, again, you're like reaching out, you're connecting with the feminine energy right now that wants to heal something. But this is, again, feeling to a certain degree like that feminine energy is only available to you to a point. It's only available to you to a point. It's almost like, again, it's like whatever was between you, it feels like something has shifted, something has changed. They're not as open. And this now may be a moment that if you're trying to return back to the feminine through which you went away from to see about healing this, you may be feeling now like the other feminine energy, surprise, surprise, is only available to you to a point. Why? Because both energies now almost see a space or place where it's that expression of recognizing or seeing that it still feels like you're not in a state or space where you truly have an energy that you're choosing to move towards. It's almost a moment that shows your own ability to try to vacillate, is almost keeping you in a state or space where it's like options are available to you, but only to an extent. Feminine energy in separation right now, this is why there may be a lot of conversations you're having with some masculine about trying to repair things right now, but almost articulating that you yourself are kind of closed off from that energy. You're moving from a state or space of caution. That there's a long path here, because this is almost feminine energy that's articulating the fact that there had been a hope of moving deeper with masculine in the past. But having experienced this amplifies and articulates feminine energy's own trepidation that masculine shows an inability to truly commit to a particular path on the long, for the long haul, as it were. And that's why we see here that for a lot of the feminine energy, there is this moment of trying to work with masculine to ascertain if something has truly changed, by masculine recognizing and identifying that by leaving their options open to any energy around them, they effectively limit all options as it relates to the extent that something can go. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 5 of Cups in combination with our 10 of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with Hangman in its reversal. What is masculine doing right now for feminine if in divine union? Masculine and feminine energy are doing everything they can to liberate themselves from that narrative of persecution, from that sense of feeling like the other is going to intentionally try to hurt the other one. What is feminine almost amplifying right now to masculine if in the divine union. Feminine is almost saying to masculine, I have been put in spaces and places in the past wherein someone tried to say that they were offering me something, but instead utilized it to hurt me. That ability of trying to get someone to open up was actually something that was being utilized to harm or take advantage of the feminine. Masculine is almost moving into this space or place of healing by almost amplifying to feminine and saying, I have had situations and circumstances like that in the past as well. I have also had moments where someone did not let me be my truest sense of self and instead utilized that to try to harm me. And what we're seeing here is this is why we see that what's so beautiful about the energy in the divine union frequency is this feels like a path of mutual healing. Because this is almost that amplification that comes from the reassurance in terms of recognizing and saying, there's nothing that I'm trying to do here. I'm not going to take what you show me and utilize it to harm or to persecute you. I'm doing this because I want to free you from that pain. I want to free you from that experience. I want to build a space or place that we can celebrate these moments, even if they've been defined by setbacks. And it is that path forward right now that both energies in the divine union are experiencing through honesty, communication, embracing one another, both faults and positives, all for the sake of deeper healing. And it is taking a lot of careful work right now because it's almost that moment of saying to the other energy, to a certain extent, that this is something that you can do and feel comfortable doing. That having that from feminine, being able to be their most vulnerable, open expression of self is something that masculine is trying to cultivate right now to show the feminine that they are in a safe space to be so. Feminine is doing so right now to show the masculine that their sense of attachment to the masculine isn't tied on any sense of personal limitation, but that continual choice that feminine is making towards masculine, because it is that feeling of shared mutual abundance. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union frequency right now, it is this moment that we are seeing and experiencing that is creating a state or space that is forcing you to almost do the opposite right now. I have to stress this is different work depending on whether you are in the heart of a divine union frequency that intentionally set forth to do this type of work versus energy that is moving into divine union. The sensitivity on the outside of the frequency is much different than the intentionality internally within it. And what we're seeing here for the energy coming into the divine union, that ability to look at something right now, to let something go for the sake of what you're moving towards. That almost feeling right now of, again, something that feels like there is a little bit of regret here. There is a little bit of sadness that something needs to be relinquished, at least temporarily, for the sake of the interest of what you're moving towards. It feels both bittersweet because it feels like, again, that sense of feeling, if not internally right now, that something is being let go. The recognition that someone around the divine union being forming does feel some sense of loss or regret on the outside. But it's almost that moment that one feels liberated to do so. That's the internal closure that is happening, because it's almost that sense of feeling like what you're moving towards is worth it, because that's where the abundance lies. Masculine and feminine right now in separation, this inability of feminine potentially to see masculine that wasn't able to prioritize the needs of the feminine over the needs of the energy outside the divine union. This is why we see that feminine energy is feeling bittersweet about it. This is a feminine energy that is just accepting something as fact, but they're also moving forward. They're not getting hung up on it. They're not lingering to see something change. This is feminine energy that almost feels a sense of confidence that there's energy around them that is going to be able to maintain that ability. This is feminine almost immediately, almost seeing some evidence of this around them right now that is almost amplifying to the feminine that such a thing is possible. And something that is seen is something that can be even better manifested. Masculine energy right now, you are potentially reflecting the feminine in this modality. You may be getting a better perception right now on what it potentially takes to come into divine union, because again, this could be something right now where you are observing a situation or circumstance wherein you may have felt, what did I say? Like you put the cart before the horse. That you put the cart before the horse, that you can't move into a space or place of trying to have everything before you move into divine union. You have to be able to show an ability of choosing a priority before you can move with intentionality on building that bigger idea, building that bigger sense of healing, going through in terms of growing something. You can't, it has to start with a choice, because if not, it just creates a moment that feels like you are effectively leaving oneself open to everything around you, as it were. And that in itself, I have to stress, for some of the masculine energy right now, that might be a choice you might be completely copacetic with. I'm not stating this. I'm not gonna say that there's some pathwork here that isn't validated. But what's important about this right now is for a lot of the masculine energy that is moving in this way, this point of observation is a point that you recognize that by making the choice to be available to everything in that same level balance, there is something that is relinquished. There is something that needs to be conscientiously relinquished if you continue to do so. So for a lot of masculine energy right now, this is that moment of determination. This is why a lot of the masculine energy right now is potentially feeling like there's this choice that is being asked by them, by all the energy around you, saying, what are you choosing? What is it that you truly want? What is it that you truly desire? Do you want to be available on a certain level for everything? Or are you able to relinquish that ability of moving with so much autonomy and self-determination for the sake of moving into something that feels like a deepened experience with a particular individual? You can't move in both spaces at once. It's one or the other to a certain extent. And we see here for a lot of masculine energy, that point of recognition may be feeling like a point of maturation in your own process, because at least now you're doing so and you're making the conscientious choice of doing it. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Pentacles in combination with our Knight of Cups in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 8 of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now in divine union and partnership. What do we effectively see is occurring right now? Masculine and feminine energy are almost having that moment of saying that this is not something, these are not situations and circumstances through which the divine union is something that is meant to limit someone. It's not meant to kind of build these walls. It's this moment of recognizing that it wants to feel like this point of spreading, this point of release, this point of growing something in abundance. And it does feel difficult for both masculine and feminine energy at this time. Feminine energy is trying to find their own emotional balance through moments right now or circumstances that feel like they are triggering in this way, because it's helping feminine energy see their own anxieties and limitations of the self. Masculine potentially is feeling that frustration because this is something that the feminine, this is something that masculine can't just pour emotionality on. This is almost something that masculine's almost saying to feminine and saying in a way like, if you don't feel comfortable and confident, I can't give this to you. I can't tell you to be comfortable and confident in those moments that you're not comfortable and confident, but I want you to recognize that limitation metric that you're feeling shouldn't come from the anxiety about my own emotional state. It shouldn't come from the anxiety about me withdrawing how I feel. This is that moment that we see. It's almost this moment for masculine that feels like a little bit of difficult territory, because it's almost that moment for masculine that says, I can't give this to you. And I can't pour my own confidence on this. All I can do to a certain extent, and I don't want to push you forward beyond your own vulnerability moment. But I do want you to know that I'm going to continue to build as supportive an environment as possible to recognize that you are able to do this work of internally building that sense and better understanding of the self. Feminine, again, one of the anxiety points is just navigating the anxiety towards the masculine in this, because this is that moment of looking at situations or experiences from the past wherein you may feel that you are not in such a supportive environment. And that is why we see this is potentially that deeper work that you're doing right now feels to a certain extent like it is so triggering. Continuing, for masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is the masculine energy having to postpone or decline doing some karmic healing at this time. This is almost a moment of masculine coming into divine union at this time, almost amplifying and saying that one may appreciate and desire to have some point of healing right now with some energy around them at this time. But it is that moment that, again, implementing the value of the Mercury retrograde, being able to say, now is not the time. I'm in the process of forming divine union. That is recognizing and amplifying to the energy around masculine to a certain extent that ratio is coming into play, that the masculine is still available towards energies to a certain extent, that ratio is being reached wherein the masculine's moving into divine union, which means the masculine energy's own availability to the energy around them is now adjusting to a different ratio. And in a way, for the masculine moving in this way, this doesn't feel, it's feeling potentially the emotional impact of energy around you, feeling that sense of disappointment to a certain extent, but also recognizing that is a point of liberation, that's almost to be expected as you move forward in this way, because it's almost that sense of bittersweet, of energy that's, has your back, being like, I'm glad for you, I'm happy. Even though there might be that sense of like a little bit of disappointment, because in a way it means that you are progressing on your own journey, but it does mean you're not going to be as available to everyone around you, as it were. Feminine seeing a masculine embodying this ability to like disappoint some energy around them right now for the sake of moving into divine union. This also feels in a way like a moment of deep celebration, because it's almost that moment of feeling the deepening and the commitment of the divine union, and it's also coming from mutual expression that this is the case. This is like falling deeper into that frequency. Feminine energy and masculine, if in separation, this inability to pull back from the expectations and the desires of the energy around you to a certain extent. This lack of ability to moderate where you put your own energy right now is potentially what has caused you to kind of fall back into separation. And it may feel like masculine energy, this may start to feel more like an intentional choice that you're making, because it is almost that moment that you do feel like there's a lot of potential opportunity around you in this modality, but it only goes to a certain limit. It only goes to a certain extent. It's that moment that almost feels like you're energetically spreading yourself out, as it were, across multiple different spaces and opportunities, almost drifting, as it were, as opposed to deeply kind of building deep into a certain experience. So we see that for a lot of the masculine energy right now, having that point of recognition might be feeling like a point of having to decide how you want to move forward going forward. If that's something that you are comfortable with, if you feel like that is the aspiration, to be able to have more of those like multifarious but surface level experiences, we see her to a certain extent that this is potentially masculine that is making that intentional choice while foregoing the deeper emotional connection that may occur if you were to choose a priority path and move into divine union right now, versus a moment that you may be deciding right now that that is something that you are now ready to relinquish as you decide to move into divine union. It is going to require a choice and a surrender to a certain extent of the energy of being available to everyone as you prioritize a single determinative path into divine union. Feminine energy in separation right now, this is why we see the feminine energy is giving masculine energy such a sense of of freedom. Because this is feminine energy that's utilizing their own powers of observation to ascertain whether masculine energy truly is invested on the path of divine union or is building more of a life that is based on a bunch of surface level multifarious experiences. This is feminine almost again being copacetic with it, not trying to shift the energy, just trying to use their own powers to observe it. Because there's one thing the feminine has determined is that a masculine energy in that modality typically and potentially in the past has not wanted to articulate it. This is almost a feminine energy that is asking the masculine to articulate that, because this is feminine energy saying, I want to know. Even if you want to be in that modality, it's fine. I want to know how much I should energetically commit to you. And this is almost feminine saying to masculine, if you are, the only thing that you cannot do here that is inappropriate is to say that you desire divine union when truly what you actually want is not to be in divine union, but to stay kind of available to anything and everyone that is around you, but only to a certain point. There's almost feminine saying, tell me what you want. Tell me what you are seeking. And almost feminine giving masculine their own observation in how they move to help them articulate on what they are actually seeking, to try to ascertain if the masculine energy is truly invested on the path of divine union, or if they're seeking more of those surface level, non-committal, base, tertiary, like surface level experiences, as it were. And this is almost feminine saying, I will match you. If you tell me that you're going to give me a teaspoon, this is feminine saying, I will also give a teaspoon, but I need you to tell me what that ratio is. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Two of Pentacles in combination with our High Priestess in its reversal. May I please get one card to clarify? We've got here our Ten of Swords in its reversal. So for feminine energy right now, there's a lot. This is great. This is this beautiful energy we're seeing right now, even for the energy in divine union. It feels like a bit of rebirth. This is coming through as like this energy now is coming out of this retrograde. Really does feel like almost like a bit of rebirth right now. But this is a lot of rebirth around feminine being ready to confront situations or circumstances that they may have been putting off for some time right now due to the fact that they didn't almost feel like emotionally or energetically ready to face them. And even now we see to a certain extent that there is some anxiety coming into play as feminine comes into this like phoenix energy, if you will. But even at this moment right now, feminine is moving very carefully to try to make sure as they navigate these circumstances and situations that may have been previously triggering to the feminine, that past circumstance isn't coming back to the surface. This is coming back up right now, but in a different way. And feminine is being very mindful of comparing the past versus the present to ascertain and to ensure both the similarities but also the key differences. And this is why this is almost feminine going to a space or place of like carefully monitoring and their own self, and potentially even working through that right now with masculine energy, because this is a moment of feminine feeling the anxiety as some of that deeper karmic work that's been happening right now is almost reaching its zenith. It's bringing feminine into a state or space of being ready to face something, much like the masculine was prior to the Mercury retrograde starting. And almost seeing right now masculine energy that is almost amplifying to the feminine energy as they do so. That feminine has this ability to do this simply because, again, this is masculine saying the difference between that past experience and the present was that you are not in this frequency. I was not here to help you through it. You are being thrown into those circumstances in the past. This is one that we are together on this. This isn't something that is tearing us apart. This work that we're doing together is something we are intentionally navigating together. And that point of optics of masculine, articulating that to the feminine right now in the divine union frequency, is again almost amplifying the difference right now between situations from the past coming to the surface in a way that feels triggering, but feminine recognizes is not the same. Masculine in divine union right now, that point of optics in showing and helping feminine see those differentiation points is what is helping to facilitate feminine in trusting their own work at this time. Because this is that moment of showing the feminine, again, what was them coming into a state of reactivity versus how they were treated in the past versus the difference of the environment they find themselves in now. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this point of optics, this point of, again, the past coming back up to the surface, but how masculine is navigating it is spelling out the difference between masculine energy that's ready to move into divine union right now, all through which the point that is being identified is a masculine energy that realizes that a choice must be made. That even now there is a choice that is being made in the divine union that is allowing a point that feels to a certain extent. It's not that the fact that the past isn't coming back to the surface right now at the conclusion of this Mercury retrograde. It is the fact that it is effectively making the masculine choose a prioritization of feminine energy. And it does feel to a certain extent that as you move into divine union frequency, there's something that feels very timely in terms of having to effectively disappoint one energy or release one energy as you focus on your attention towards another. And that moment of observation feels to a certain extent right now. Again, it does require a bit of balancing, but the difference is masculine. You are effectively prioritizing a feminine in this modality as it relates to circumstances in the past where you might not have. And that in itself is what is changing and allowing this to be a moment that you are continuing forward into divine union, even in the face of circumstances or situations of this nature. Because again, it's almost that call for patience towards something, that call of saying that if something is coming towards you right now from a good intention, as opposed to tearing you out of divine union, it will be willing to wait if the timing is not ideal in order to build healing. Feminine seeing a masculine that is able to amplify and articulate that this is a difficult decision, that the timing is hard, that this isn't something that masculine is pretending that's not happening, but is being very articulate about their feelings around a circumstance or situation. It may be hard for the feminine, but the fact that the masculine is being open and expressive about it fully, and the fact that there's something about energy around them right now being disappointed is almost amplifying to feminine that this is in fact a masculine that is not trying to return back to past situations, but is building that sense of closure within the self that is allowing them to continue forward into divine union, even in the face of outside energy that, may create a challenging space or place to do so. Feminine energy in separation right now, this is feminine potentially articulating why they are in separation And this may be a moment of, again, feminine almost amplifying either to new masculine energy or to masculine energy that's put them in this situation, in articulating that they have closed themselves off to masculine to a certain degree, or they're very hesitant due to the fact that they have identified something in their past wherein a masculine showed an inability to prioritize a particular feminine energy in their life. And this is why we almost see that a lot of feminine energy right now is potentially doing a lot of work right now in speaking with masculine to ask masculine what it is that you want. And if you're being asked this right now, masculine, this is what the energy means when they say, what is it that they want? They're trying to ascertain if you are an energy that is not invested in divine union, that is rather trying to balance lots of different options all on the same prioritization level, or if you are you are intentionally moving towards feminine with the desire of coming into divine union. And this is almost feminine energy that's almost saying to masculine, I am okay either way. The thing that the feminine is not okay with is a masculine that articulates and says that they're doing one thing when it's very clear through words, deeds, and actions that they are doing another. And this is literally why we see that a lot of the feminine energy right now is either articulating or trying to articulate this to a masculine to get them to not even make a choice, but to at least articulate that they're not in a space or place to choose. Or this is a feminine that's holding themselves and letting masculine energy have as many options as they want because they're using their powers of observation, because they're feeling a cynicism of a masculine that is able to accurately articulate this through words. So feminine's almost creating the situation through which they can see it through action. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our High Priestess in its reversal in combination with our Hangman in its reversal. May I please get one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Knight of Wands in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in divine union. This is that moment that we are seeing right now, that why we see that a lot of the feminine energy is feeling that point of anxiety right now. Because it's almost that moment that we're seeing right now of feminine facing these past circumstances, facing this moment where they're doubting themselves, they're doubting their own abilities. And a lot of it is coming from a desire or an anxiety of feeling or fearing masculine energy losing their own desire of passion towards the feminine. This is feminine energy almost going through past experiences of masculine that may have created spaces or places that made the feminine energy question their own intuition, question their own logic. And what we see right now that is so important for a lot of the masculine energy that's helping the feminine heal in this modality right now is this is almost a masculine energy that is amplifying to the feminine that any of the energy from the past that put the feminine in that modality was because that was not feminine and masculine in divine union, but masculine energy that was only trying to seek and meet their own desires, their own needs. That there was something about the observation of the feminine energy's own past that masculine is almost trying to show to the feminine, that is articulating and amplifying that whatever those situations were that created the feminine to be in that modality, it was from a masculine energy that was not necessarily protecting or creating a positive environment for the feminine so much as it was a masculine that was trying to serve their own needs and desires and making the feminine question themselves on the way. And that was allowing them to facilitate doing so. So what we see here right now is for the masculine energy right now, there is that moment that is almost creating a space or place of reassurance that's almost saying to the feminine, there's nothing that you can do that is going to send my passion away from you. There's nothing that you can do by embodying your true self that is going to drive me away from you. That if anything, masculine is almost trying to free feminine of that anxiety and fear so that feminine can embody their fullest expression of self. Feminine even experiencing this from the part of the masculine due to the fact that you're doing so much of this karmic work right now, even that feels like a bit of a triggering space because it's that sense of anxiety based on the past experiences that is almost creating that sense of trepidation, as it were. masculine and feminine coming into. But again, both of you are effectively doing this for the sake of liberating the other person. Because this is almost masculine saying to feminine, one of the reasons I'm amplifying this to you is because I feel those same fears. I feel that same anxiety. I feel that same fear that you will lose that connection point with me. And that's why we see that for the energy in the divine union right now, this is feeling like beautiful dual path work, because this is something that you're giving each other by stating each other's own anxieties and fears to the other one. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is masculine surrendering opportunities here. This is masculine, much like the energy coming into the divine union frequency that's doing this intentionally. This is masculine that is looking at a situation wherein they need to surrender some movement right now towards feminine, even if this is outside feminine energy that's trying to heal something. And the amplification is, again, something out now. The timing on something is not ideal. And for feminine, even masculine, seeing this right now, having to effectively say to feminine that there's something about timing right now. They can't move towards them. They can't come into that space or place of healing that the feminine might be seeking on them. That is that point of observing to the energy around the feminine right now, that this is indeed a masculine that is truly moving into divine union right now. Because again, even if the feminine energy isn't present, feminine is almost, masculine is almost speaking on behalf of a feminine, observing their needs beyond the feminine even being present in those circumstances. That in itself is almost giving energy around the divine union confirmation that divine union is in fact occurring. And that is almost the changing of the ratio of availability of masculine energy to some of the energy around them right now that may be creating a little bit of a disappointment feeling, but is almost coming into immediate point of acceptance. Feminine seeing a masculine able to articulate that they recognize that there's some energy around them right now that's getting disappointed, seeing them move into this modality, being open and articulate about it, is almost amplifying immediately to the feminine that this is in fact a masculine that is ready to relinquish any of these experiences from the past. It doesn't mean, we have to stress here, it doesn't mean that feminine feels like masculine has just abandoned any feelings towards these energies. It's more the fact that feminine realizes and trusts masculine energy's own judgment and determination in terms of what it is that they're truly seeking at this time, and realizing that ability to prioritize the feelings and emotional needs of the feminine, even when the feminine's not there, is further amplification that divine union is a frequency that they're falling deeper into. Feminine energy in separation right now, not seeing a masculine that can relinquish opportunities and possibilities. Masculine that lacks that ability of restraint. And that's how it's looking for a lot of feminine energy right now. It's almost feeling a frustration of a masculine energy that seems to lack the ability of personal power over self as it relates to their own desires. This is simply why we see that feminine's almost letting masculine kind of run free in this way, because this is almost feminine energy saying it's not the feminine energy's job or ability to build that sense of choice, of discernment to masculine. This could even be a feminine that's almost allowing the masculine some kind of connection to them, but only to a degree, only to a certain level of optic, only to a certain level. And this is almost feminine building that ability to self-regulate their own bandwidth, as it were, towards a certain masculine energy, with a sense of just accepting that that is the energy that they can expect from that masculine. Which is why we see here, for a lot of masculine in separation, there could be this frustration or feeling of some of the feminine energy not being completely open to you, to the amount or level that you would expect and anticipate. And the reason is they're probably going to articulate if you ask them, because they feel that they see some kind of level of fickleness as it relates to your own ability to commit to a direction that they're not even trying to fight against. They're just accepting, and they're actually being very open to express to you, were you to ask them. They're not going to offer it, but that's why we see to a certain extent why there is that sense of potentially being a bit more closed off, as it were. Masculine, if you're looking to change this right now, you may be feeling right now that this is that amplification point that you have to kind of feel like you have to come into a path of self-correction. Because if you're seeing this right now, it's almost potentially coming through as a desire to want to prove something to this energy, to show them that either you recognize that this may have been something that was apparent in past behavior or something that you're looking to change. And this is almost feminine energy that's not even seeking to ask you to change it. They're just almost asking you to confirm what they're observing. So that's why we're seeing for a lot of the masculine energy right now, this could be a moment that feels somewhat frustrating because it's that observation in seeing how feminine is observing you right now that may be speaking deeper in terms of having to ascertain what it is that you truly want. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Hangman in its reversal in combination with our Eight of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Five of Wands. Masculine, masculine and feminine in divine union and partnership right now. This is why we even see right now this is a bit of a conflict zone. There is something here that feels like there are some internal conflicts going on. And it could be a challenging space. If not internally right now, this could even be a moment that feels like there may be some energy here that's a little potentially ripe for conflict, which is why we see there needs to be a sense or a level of sensitivity brought on to circumstances or situations right now, because we do see an area a little bit right now that feels like boundaries are being pushed. There's some intentionality, and this is intentional right now. This is intentional work for the energy and divine union on pushing each other's boundaries, but in, I have to stress this, a healthy, productive, positive, consensual way. That ability to build that sense right now of helping each other observe one's own limitations. It's going to feel like a little internal and external work. And having those moments may feel a little bit conflict inducing due to the fact that whenever we're dealing with that territory, it can feel a little triggering. Making sure that one moves with intentionality and care and support and love through those triggers together right now is going to be very, very valuable and important. Now, masculine and feminine that are in divine union, this is intentional path work. It's going to be a little bit easier for that reason because you know that you're challenging each other in this way. You set about to do so. Masculine and feminine coming into the divine union right now, this is that moment that feels more like a challenging space or place, specifically because you didn't necessarily set out to encounter these. In fact, it may be feeling right now almost frustrating because it's almost this moment of feeling like there's some situations and circumstances that you would have been over the moon to karmically heal prior to coming into divine union. It feels very frustrating in that way because it's almost that moment that's observing the feeling of something coming towards you in a way you would have accepted it, except the timing feels like it couldn't be worse. And that's why we identify and see right now that for a lot of energy right now, even discussing the timing is feeling very significant because it's almost building that connective tissue in divine union that's almost observing and saying, well, yeah, like if something about this energy had come towards me prior to me being in divine union, something very different may have occurred. Something completely, this may have like opened a box, if you will. And that's why this is why we see that this is instead moving into divine union, because it's not necessarily allowing a box to be opened. It's that moment of, again, looking at the possibility of a box opening and saying, like, I'm going to pass on that box. We're going to continue forward in this way because, again, even if it isn't necessarily something that someone set out to do, It feels like the timing on something, coincidental or not, feels very triggering. And there may even be an optic right now, especially if there's some time put into place on something in terms of someone coming to someone to heal for the best of intentions, and someone saying that the timing isn't necessarily right due to the fact that divine union's forming. That's almost building some sense that some of the energy does feel a level or degree of frustration or disappointment in seeing that is the case, that is almost amplifying that something about the fact that the divine union forming is having some impact on the energy even outside of the circumstance or situation. Masculine and feminine that fell into separation over this is exactly why. It has to do with your ratios being off as it relates to where your prioritization was. Because this is, again, that moment of someone walking towards something and saying something was harmless. Someone just wants to heal. Someone just wants to come into good terms. And feminine, almost seeing if this was a masculine that pulled away from this degree, being like, we are now actively fighting over this. This harmless thing, this thing that didn't have anything. This is literally why we find ourselves in conflict right now. It literally, that harmless thing had the most harmful effect possible. And that's because energetically, there wasn't a moment of making that mutual determination point as it relates to how to proceed forward. And this is why we see that for a lot of the feminine energy right now, in this modality, this is a moment that feminine isn't sticking around to challenge a masculine that doesn't want to commit to the feminine in this way. If this is a feminine that feels like they need to fight to have the masculine prioritize their own emotional needs, this is a feminine almost literally saying, I'm just going to move away from that. How am I, because this is a feminine that feels like to a certain extent, the minute that they have to argue about how the masculine should be prioritizing the feminine energy's own needs, feminine already feels like the battle's been lost. That defeats the purpose. That's why we see her in a way, feminine's almost letting the masculine throw themselves back into it. And for feminine, it's almost watching masculine like throw themselves back into not something that looks like it's coming to the masculine to heal them. It looks like masculine throwing themselves back into an unhealed karmic situation, because this is feminine seeing the fact that it just immediately led to them back into separation. Masculine in separation right now, this could be a moment that you're feeling a lot of anger or potential frustration around circumstances like this, because this could be a moment that you're feeling and experiencing a feminine that's being very open and forthright about their perspective on things. And it could be feeling right now that something about their perception on something was something that you either didn't see the optics on to the same decision or determination point, but it almost feels like in a way you can almost feel the fact that the feminine in this way has almost released you. There's almost that moment that may be feeling like that point of frustration. If a feminine's being this articulate about this and almost amplifying to you how they're only allowing you in to a certain degree, it could be creating a sense of deep frustration. And I have to stress, you have to be very careful about not being triggered right now, because it's almost that moment of potentially having recognized that this is a feminine that's like almost like let go some aspiration or desire of building deeper with you, because and I have to stress this, it's almost the feminine trying to amplify to you that the reason that they made that choice was because they feel that you actually made it first by not prioritizing them above all the other options. And even now we almost see that this is a moment that you may be feeling, if that is the case, like it creates that sense of trigger in you, because that's almost a moment that we are seeing for the masculine that almost feels like a certain point that it wasn't necessarily your intention. Because again, we're seeing here that this is almost a moment of masculine. You may be looking at something that, again, you were trying to amplify was harmless, but you're now recognizing to a certain extent was not. And this is what the feminine was trying to tell you was not harmless about it. It didn't have to do with whether your own intentions were. It has to do with the fact that if the feminine asked you not to move forward in this way because it didn't make them feel comfortable and you did so anyway, you superseded your own desire versus staying in divine union and making a choice together. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Ten of Swords and its reversal in combination with our Knight of Wands and its reversal. One card to clarify, please. This is productive. I know it's triggering. It is productive. I want everyone to say triggers, when utilized in a way that does not generate conflict, can be very, very productive spaces. Okay? Masculine and feminine right now. This is going through a trigger, and it does feel like something coming back to the surface right now. Even for masculine, there is something in the divine union that is speaking about your own anxiety. This is almost a moment where, again, masculine, you're navigating your own feelings of, your own sense of anxiety, your own sense of passion, your own sense of determination. There's a point of frustration here. But again, masculine, we see that you're working through your own trigger. This is masculine right now going through the same exact process of the feminine. But the masculine is feeling more of that anxiety as it relates to seeing the results of the action here. This is masculine that, again, it feels like masculine's trying to have a very gentle hand around circumstances and situations right now. Because this is a masculine energy that is trying to amplify that this isn't a circumstance or situation of masculine trying to force the feminine out of their own comfort zone, but almost telling the feminine energy that they are there to be their most authentic, open expression of self. And it's requiring masculine to kind of walk this fine line between articulating their own needs and desires, recognizing that the feminine is very eager to meet them by almost saying, pulling back, if you will, and saying this is something I want you to do for you, not for me. I want you to be your most vulnerable, authentic expression of self because it serves you, because it serves what you desire. This is not the masculine saying because it serves what I desire, because this is almost masculine saying, I see how in the past energy tried to bring you into that modality because it served their purposes to have you vulnerable. And this is why we see masculine hitting such a very careful, discerning note right now in terms of healing with the feminine, to say, this isn't about me and my desire. It's about you. It's about what we're creating together. Feminine seeing masculine in this modality, we literally see here, this is feminine that even at this moment is saying, I want to find a way for you to be happy, and feeling the masculine pull back to a certain extent and saying, no, this is your choice. This is your ability. This is your power of being vulnerable. You must choose this path for yourself. I am going to support your direction either way. That is, in a way, what is showing is so important and valuable right now about the work of discernment that's happening in divine union, because it is articulating the difference between someone trying to push someone into vulnerability to serve their own needs versus someone trying to push someone into their most authentic, vulnerable expression of self for the sake of seeing what grows in the wake, for the sake of just feeling the amplification of the creativity and the positivity that comes from doing that work together. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, this is literally masculine to a certain extent relinquishing a path to a certain extent for the sake of the divine union. And there's almost a moment right now that, again, feels like something is bittersweet right now for masculine, because it's not the fact that something isn't coming back to the surface here. It's all about the choices that you're making during this time that is amplifying whether you are actually ready for divine union right now, because it's almost that moment that you're showing your own ability and power of discernment, and not just being quiet about it, vocalizing and articulating it to the feminine through communication that is allowing this to be a continuation forth into the divine union frequency. Feminine seeing a masculine that not only is going through a hard decision right now, but amplifying to the feminine and saying yeah, This is not an ideal situation. If it wasn't for you and I being together, something very different might be occurring right now. That's not scaring the feminine energy out of the divine union frequency. It's showing a feminine that a masculine is truly committed to staying in the vibration of divine union, because this is masculine almost articulating the difference of how they would behave outside the divine union versus how they're behaving inside the divine union. That separation point is the key. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. This is why we see that the feminine energy is literally not necessarily stopping the masculine in terms of driving forward, in terms of whatever they want to pursue right now, because feminine energy feels to a certain extent that some of a sense of cynicism, that some of the masculine will be truly open and honest about what it is that they're seeking at this time. So feminine is basically just giving masculine the full track to run on, to see where they're chasing, to see what baton they're going after, to see what it is they're moving towards. And if this is happening right now for thought of feminine and separation, this is almost feminine being very articulate to a masculine. And again, if this is a feminine that came into separation from a masculine and said, it's okay, you do whatever you want to do. This is the comma that was on the other side of that sentence that meant, and I will do whatever I want to do as well. Potato, potato. Masculine, if you're in separation over this right now with the feminine, this could be a moment that, again, why this could feel kind of triggering is a feeling of having misinterpreted or misunderstood what a feminine was saying when they said to you, go ahead and do whatever you want. Because that might have been a moment that you're realizing that the difference between being in divine union is not kind of an energy that says, go ahead and do whatever you want, is an energy saying, I give you full, like, I agree with this path. I agree with this direction. No, really, I want you to go do these things. We are choosing this together, versus an energy that may have articulated to you a sense of a lack of desire in doing something that you may have kind of like superseded because of your own desire. And you may now be seeing to a certain extent that that level or degree of freedom that you were given was not the freedom of someone consenting and coming into mutual agreement with you. It was someone releasing you. It was someone falling back into separation and releasing you by saying you can make any choice you want. Because that point of saying you make any choice you want meant I'm relinquishing my assumption that we are in divine union. So this point of observation right now may be being reached with masculine, because it could be feeling like there's feeling right now that the feminine may only kind of be seeing you right now as someone, especially if they feel like you kind of superseded a decision of mutual agreement to pursue your passion. This is feminine energy that's not necessarily potentially relinquishing a connection with you. They're almost articulating, saying, okay, you want to have just a connections that are based on passion. So that is the only aspect or optic that I'm willing to experience with you. And this is almost feminine saying, I'm not choosing that because I desire it. I'm just reflecting to you what you are showing me. And that's why we see that this is the feminine that's almost saying to the masculine right now, tell me what you want. Because this is almost feminine saying, you're giving me every impression that all you potentially are seeking, if you're just moving towards one pleasure to another, all you're giving me an impression of that the only thing you're truly seeking is a passion connection. And this is almost a feminine saying, if you just want a passion connection, that's fine. We just have to be on the same page about it. Masculine seeing this right now, this is that moment that may be feeling like there is a point where a lot of the energy around you right now is saying to you in one way or another, what is it that you want? And what you have to understand is they're not saying, what is it that you want? Meaning, do you want me? Feminine never says, what is it that you want when they think that you want them? Feminine saying, what is it that you want? Because this is feminine saying, you clearly don't want what I want. Because if you wanted what I wanted, you would articulate it. You have to articulate what it is that you're seeking, because this is a feminine that feels so confused by your fickle nature, by the way you're moving, that they need you to clarify, to to be very specific on why you're moving towards them right now, because this is almost a feminine energy that feels to a certain extent, especially if you guys fell into separation over this and now you're trying to come back towards the feminine, that this is now becoming a point of confusion because they don't understand necessarily why, because it's almost a moment where you gave every implication that you did not desire divine union with the feminine by pursuing your own path, and now you're coming back to feminine. So this is feminine that's almost assuming that the only reason you're approaching them is due to your own passion center now feeling inclined in their direction. And this is why we almost see that this is feminine in this way, almost saying like, go ahead, pursue whatever you desire. Because this is feminine that has almost abandoned the ability potentially to feel like you're going to articulate to them. So they're just kind of watching to see which way you move to try to extrapolate what it is that you want. So for a lot of the masculine energy right now, communication, really articulating what it is you seek from feminine, even if that doesn't necessarily mean divine union, is going to make things much easier for you going forward. Because if not, we see a lot of the feminine energy just assuming the worst if you don't articulate what it is that you seek. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Knight of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Five of Wands. Clarification coming through right now. The problem with the masculine is there's a lot of anxiety, even if you're in separation right now, to actually tell the feminine what you want. You're feeling that point of anxiety. You're feeling like there's some kind of fear here that if you actually tell feminine what it is that you really seek, that there's no way that the feminine will be on board with it. Guess what? Find out. Because what's happening right now for a lot of masculine energy and separation is if you're not articulating right now what it is you actually seek from feminine, I guarantee you that we're seeing here that feminine is assuming the absolute worst. Feminine is assuming if you don't tell them that if they're seeing something in you that feels confusing, that you are moving from a state or space of only following your immediate passion and also feeling too afraid to say that that is what you're doing. So if you're not saying it, even if that's what you're doing, this is almost a feminine energy saying, if that's what you're doing, it's okay so long as you tell me. Because if you don't say it to feminine, feminine is assuming that is what you are doing. Feminine is going to treat you like that is what you are doing, which is why there might be potentially conflict that is occurring here, because this is feminine energy that only feels the conflict point in you potentially not being clear on what it is and what type of connection you're actually seeking from feminine. Feminine seeing this is why we see that feminine almost is like abandoning trying to communicate this to masculine, because this is almost feminine that feels like when feminine tells masculine that they see them doing this. Feminine being like, this is what it looks like on the outside. Feeling like masculine blows up. Masculine potentially utilizes that as a challenge point, but even a masculine that responds in that way almost feels to a certain extent like it's confirmation to the feminine, because it's not a masculine that's clarifying what they want. It's just a masculine energy that gets reactive when feminine energy, boop, hits the nose on the target. So masculine, if there's feminine energy around you right now that's saying to you in some way, shape, or form, it seems like you're just pursuing your own passions wherever they may lead, and you're not being articulate about it, and you blow up about it, or it makes you reactionary, that probably is because it struck a nerve, because it hit very close to a target. If you're not able to amplify and explain that that is not the case, your reactivity almost immediately serves the feminine as confirmation that that feminine has hit the hammer with the nail. So masculine, if that is not something that you're seeking, this is a moment that you may need to work through your own personal conflict in terms of being honest with what it is that you're seeking from feminine right now, because it's almost creating unnecessary conflict only through the fact that you're not articulating what it is that you're truly after. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, masculine's own ability to pull away from some things right now potentially is creating conflict around them. it may now be this moment that if masculine is kind of pulling back on some things right now and saying like, I'm afraid I'm not available for this right now, that's that moment that masculine's almost identifying and saying, I can't right now because it may potentially cause conflict in the divine union I'm forming. This is that moment that it's like masculine's recognizing like the conflict's going to be there one way or another, but that is the nature of coming into divine union. You can't please all the energy around you all the time through your choices. But that's also kind of that aspect of divine union that feels like it is that letting go process. There's going to be energy that doesn't ideally desire to see you in union. Masculine and feminine in divine union right now. This is why we see even now it's feeling so triggering, because feminine is feeling and remembering situations and circumstances wherein feminine, being this vulnerable and open, created conflict spaces. This is feminine almost immediately getting triggered, because this is almost feminine anticipating and feeling the anxiety as they do that unpacking, that this may result in the same response. And we see here that this is why, for a certain extent with masculine, there's like a heightened sensitivity right now of masculine, even in divine union, trying to be very trepidatious in terms of helping feminine through a lot of this feeling, because it's almost masculine trying to identify and say, this choice to be vulnerable is not based on my will. It's based on what you feel comfortable with. And that's why we see that a lot of the masculine energy in this modality right now of divine union is walking a very fine line, because even now this is masculine that's trying to make sure that they're not creating the same space that caused the triggering situations in the past, whereas a masculine energy putting their will towards feminine to be vulnerable in a way that made the feminine feel like they were being taken advantage of. Final card for today's spread between our Ace of Wands in combination with our Page of Swords in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Final card for today. We love this. What is the difference that's happening right now for the energy in the divine union frequency? Communication, communication, communication. This is not energy that is moving unilaterally. This is not energy that one person is making a determination point and the other one is just going along with this. We are seeing here that for the energy in the divine union frequency, the change that feminine is experiencing that even now is fortifying the feminine through the work that they're doing and coming in this way, is coming through the fact that this is a point of feeling that sense of positivity, that sense of support, that sense of encouragement, that sense that you're not doing something. You know, this is not giving the energy of someone who's giving you space. This is energy of in divine union. This is not giving someone space. This is energy of someone holding space, making that choice for someone to be able to come into their full expression of self, masculine and feminine. And that ability right now of having that be a point of a gift that you're giving to each other, back and forth, is amplifying the difference between circumstances that may have been triggering in the past versus circumstances that are happening now. They're nuanced differences, but they make all the difference. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This is that ratio effect. This is, again, the energy around the divine union almost seeing to a certain extent. It's not the fact that the masculine energy is completely inaccessible now. It's that the ratio of accessibility of masculine towards some situations feels like it has changed to being focused entirely or more significantly in the divine union. And that ability right now of masculine recognizing that the priority is in the divine union, even if it limits them in some capacity right now, it doesn't feel like a limitation of masculine so much as it feels like masculine almost has to like articulate that this is the case. It feels like it's almost this moment that feels like it is creating a deepening in the divine union frequency, specifically due to the fact that this is masculine saying that there is something new. This is a new endeavor. This is a new path that they're forging for themselves. And feminine seeing this and masculine even articulating on this. Again, not something masculine's doing autonomously, but something masculine's doing in conjunction with feminine, is amplifying a deepening into the divine union frequency. Masculine and feminine in separation right now. A masculine's own ability not to be able to recognize the importance and value of ratios may have led to a situation and circumstance wherein feminine is recalibrating how much bandwidth they're potentially giving a masculine energy at this time, based on the fact that this is potentially a moment of feminine feeling like there is some situation or circumstance of masculine that is not willing to adjust the ratio of what they're giving energy outside of the divine union. So this is feminine almost immediately falling back into separation with masculine. And again, not necessarily completely severing the connection, but modifying what they're giving back to the masculine so that it feels like it is equal. It's that recalibration of the ratio. And again, almost a masculine falling in the hierarchy of importance of the feminine's life, almost into a space or place of something just fulfilling a passion center. If this is a masculine that gave some indication that their own passion superseded the ability to stay in divine union. While for masculine energy and separation right now, there could be a point of observation on this as being something that occurred in the past. This is either something that you are recognizing now in a way that you didn't see before, or this is a moment that you are articulating to someone that you now recognize. And through this moment, this isn't necessarily saying that all the masculine energy right now is desiring to move into divine union. This could even be a moment right now of some masculine energy coming into a point of just recognizing that it is important to articulate what it is that you're actually seeking, because that's the only way you're going to get it. How are you going to get? You can't manipulate your way into something that is going to feel ideal for you. You need to be able to articulate the desired outcome in order to generate that same response from the energy around you right now. So this is even coming through as a lesson right now about masculine. This may be feeling about coming into a state or space of being able to really verbalize what it is you're truly seeking, so that you can kind of get it back in kind, because it's almost that point of recognizing that you may feel like you may have lost some opportunity in having something due to a lack of confidence in terms of really articulating upon that need. This is almost almost recognizing that feminine's willing to meet you where you're at, but you got to show them where you are first. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now is Ace of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine in divine union. This is that moment. It feels very heavy because this is that moment. Remember I said that for a lot of the energy moving into this modality right now, that idea or aspect of surrendering the outcome was very valuable and important. We are seeing that for a lot of this energy right now, it is that feeling of relinquishing the outcome that is still coming into play, because there's that moment of masculine and feminine in divine union falling deeper into the surrender of each other, becoming even more vulnerable to one another right now. That can feel scary. It can feel triggering, but it almost feels like a profound gift, because it's almost amplifying spaces or places wherein it feels like it is safe to do so. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, the ability right now to relinquish the outside connections, being able to adjust that ratio, being able to amplify the energy right now, even if it's coming towards you for the best intentions possible, that one's own needs and priorities are focused right now on the formation of a divine union. This is that amplification right now that feels like it is a surrender, but it also feels like there's a gift on the other side of it, which is the divine union. Feminine and masculine in separation right now. This is feminine energy potentially coming to terms with the fact that they have to surrender the possibility of coming into divine union with some masculine energy. It's maybe even speaking right now of a feminine that's not necessarily surrendering entirely a masculine energy in their own life right now, but they're certainly potentially surrendering for some of the energy around them, the possibility of coming into divine union, because there is seeing something around that energy that speaks directly to a recalibrating of how much energy one is giving someone, especially if a masculine energy is shown a feminine, that they lack that ability of prioritizing the feminine need over the masculine's own desires. While for masculine energy right now, coming in separation, this acceptance about potentially having a recognition point about the importance of prioritizing an energy right now. It feels like a choice. It's that point of recognition right now. Again, you can't leave yourself completely available to all the energy around you and then try to move into divine union with a particular energy, because the divine union frequency itself almost requires a point of prioritization. And so for a masculine energy, it feels right now that you recognize that there is a choice you potentially need to make in terms of amplifying what it is that you're seeking, because it's that moment of realizing that you can't necessarily leave yourself available to everything and everyone while at the same time trying to pursue a divine union, because one needs to supersede the other. That is our daily collective read for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me on my website, you can. If you'd like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. Booking a private reading is a two-step process. You have to book the reading, you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please, 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 please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never inbox you. I will never DM you. I will never slide into your PMs and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again tomorrow. Guys,